Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Untangle 101 webinar series. Today we'll be talking about a very hot topic, ransomware. It's very important that everyone understands the different attack vectors that ransomware can take and the steps you can take to protect your network from any type of ransomware attack. My name is Shannon Miles and I'm part of the product marketing team here, and I'll be your host today. I also have with us our sales engineer, Chad McNaughton, who will be taking us through a demonstration of how NG Firewall can help protect your network later on. All right, so just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. If you do have any audio issues, please be sure you are selecting the correct audio preference on the right-hand side. If you do select to use a phone, you will need to dial in and use the access code that's provided. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you will have the option to rewatch or revisit areas that you want to follow up on. And as always, we'll be answering questions throughout the webinar. We have a couple of team members on hand to help answer any questions. But if you do have a very specific question or want to talk to one of our sales team, please just send us an email at sales@untangle.com. Again, we'll be answering questions in the Q&A box on the right-hand side. All right, so let's get started. So for those of you who are not familiar with ransomware, ransomware is a type of malware that specifically is a malicious type of software attack that installs malware inconspicuously on a victim's computer, encrypting the files unless the victim pays a ransom to decrypt the files. There have been some recent reports that have revealed some startling statistics of ransomware. Ransomware has become the 5th most common variety of malware, according to Verizon's DBIR 2017 report. Ransomware attacks have risen over 50% in the last year, and the average amounts victims are paying are close to over $1,000, which is a 266% increase from last year, according to Symantec's 2017 Internet Security Threat Report. And in that, more than 100 new malware families have been released. So these are some startling statistics, and just last year alone, over $1 billion has been lost in revenue to ransomware attacks, according to NBC News. So let's dive into some of the largest attacks that I'm sure many of you are aware of. Most recently, WannaCry. WannaCry hit in May 2017, not too long ago. There was an estimated 400,000 Windows machines that were affected in over 150 countries, specifically in the National Health Service Agency in the United Kingdom. WannaCry initially spread via phishing emails and downloadable executables from malicious sites. However, unlike previous attacks, this ransomware was designed to aggressively rampage through both local networks and the internet using a worming behavior. This worming behavior makes use of the Eternal Blue exploit that was developed by the NSA and leaked online by cyber criminals syndicate, the Shadow Brokers. This caused the malware to spread like a worm through the network of any unpatched Windows machines. So while there have been a lot other smaller ransomware attacks that have hit, Locky was the next largest one that hit us in 2016. Locky spread its malware via email attachments, first in Word documents and then later in JavaScript attachments to get around anti-malware security. Victims were instructed to pay a Bitcoin ransom in order to decrypt the files. And according to the FBI, victims paid over $209 million to the ransomware attacks in the first 3 months of 2016. And over 400,000 victims were affected in that first week of the attack. CryptoWall was another major attack that mostly hit North America in 2015. About $325 million in revenue was lost to hackers from victims paying to decrypt their files. There were 2 strains of CryptoWall. The first strain was malvertising, The ads redirected victims to rogue websites that used plug-in browsers to download the payload and therefore infecting the user's computer. The other strain was through email attachments, which is becoming a common thread in these ransomware attacks. They evaded detection by requiring users to visit a web page and enter a CAPTCHA code before the payload was actually downloaded. And last, one of the other large ones is CryptoLocker, where actually CryptoWall is a variation of CryptoLocker. CryptoLocker hit us in 2013, so a little while ago, and it specifically targeted Windows machines and spread again via email attachments. Over $300 million was paid out to these hackers. So what can you do to kind of prevent this from happening to your network? Well, there's some best practices that you can start implementing in your network. First off, educating users and your employees is one of the top things that you can do to preventing any type of malware. Always keep backups. You know, data can't be recovered if it isn't backed up. So make sure you have a strategy in place that covers every user, device, and file. Staying up to date is very important as well. Keeping your systems and apps current with the latest patches avoids exploits that rely on outdated code. Keeping every endpoint protected. You know, gateway protection can't help when users insert a rogue USB stick, so make sure you have a plan in place to protect every endpoint. If an email looks suspicious, it probably is. Teach your users to trash emails that look like spam, or better yet, show them how to inspect email headers if they're unsure of the sender. Don't open attachments. Unless you're absolutely, positively sure who is sending you a file, it's better to leave it alone. Don't open attachments that if you do open an attachment, it should never enable macros or executables. Suggest different ways to share documents that require authentication or have built-in virus scanning. Locking down administrative rights is another important thing you can do. Don't give users administrative rights, even on their own machines, unless it's absolutely necessary. And protecting at the gateway. Untangle's NG Firewall can block spam, viruses, and phishing attempts that are very common in spreading malware and ransomware. And it can also block phone home requests made by malware. Implementing these best practices is a great first step to preventing ransomware, but it's also important to understand how ransomware and malware attacks are carried out and what solutions you can put in place to stop them. So ransomware can be spread through varying different ways. One of them was phishing emails. Phishing emails are designed to fool a user or victim into sharing sensitive information, like their username, their password, social security information, credit card information. And when they have that information, they then use it in a malicious way. In 2016 alone, 93% of phishing emails contained ransomware, so that's a very, very high amount. Another form is malvertising, which I mentioned earlier. Malvertising is just malicious advertising, simply put. Ransomware malvertising involves malicious code that's installed on a victim's device without their knowledge when a user clicks on an ad. So once that payload is downloaded and installed, the hard drive is encrypted and the malware demands payment via bitcoins or another form of payment in order to decrypt the device. And email attachments, which seems to be a very common thread in all of these attacks, is another attack vector for ransomware. And hackers use malicious email attachments to trick users into opening a file. Oftentimes they're disguised as a Word document or a PDF invoice, any way that they can trick a user. So there are a couple solutions that Untangle has that can help with attacking all of these vectors. Our Fish Blocker and Spam Blocker block email on SMTP and malicious farming websites. Spam Blocker has a catch rate of over 99.5% while minimizing false positives. Our Ad Blocker blocks ads at the gateway without installing a plugin, which solves the malvertising types of attacks that I mentioned. A virus blocker protects against all internet traffic, including HTTP, FTP, and SMTP, and has a 99.8% detection rate. Together with Scout IQ, which is Untangle's threat intelligence platform, virus blocker also does a cloud scan in addition to a local scan. And our web filter application provides content filtering for over 500 million sites in over 140 categories in 200 languages. So now that I've kind of introduced some of Untangle's applications, I'd just like to quickly give you an overview of what Untangle does for those of you who are not aware of our product and what NG Firewall can do. NG Firewall is a gateway solution to not just stopping ransomware, but all types of malware. We combined unified threat management to address all the key network threats with policy management tools that enable administrators to monitor, manage, and shape internet traffic. NG Firewall is designed to balance performance and protection while providing policy and productivity. So it's an ideal fit for organizations that want a powerful, cost-effective network security solution that can handle any IT challenge. So I mentioned some of the apps earlier. This is our full suite of apps. We have all of them that range from protection to filtering, performance, connectivity management, and add-ons. There's over 20 applications. The apps are modules that add functionality to the NG Firewall platform, and they're kind of like apps on a smartphone. So each app has a different task, like blocking spam or preventing virus infections, and they all work together via our flexible integrated rules engine. This allows the administrator to create granular policies and handle every type of traffic, threat, or optimization, regardless of the complexity of your network or your business rules. NG Firewall also includes onboard reports that let you drill down into each app or across applications by users, group, time of day, anything you want to drill down into. And every data set is available in NG Firewall via reports. And all of our reports are responsive, so you can view them also on your mobile app or tablet. All right, so let's take a break just really quick before I pass it over to Chad to give us a demo. We wanted to do a poll. Just let me launch this. There we go. We just wanted to see how many of you have been affected by ransomware. So if you could just take a few quick seconds to answer that. We're just very curious to see how many of you have actually been affected. So we'll just give that a few seconds. All right, so looks like most people have answered. So let's close that. And we can share the report. So it looks like about half, 50-50, which is a pretty interesting thing. That's very good to know that at least 50% of you are somewhat protected, and hopefully 50% of you can find a solution to help stop these attacks from happening. So with that, I think I'm ready to pass it over to Chad, who's going to give us a quick demo of how Untangle can actually help with all these ransomware attacks. So go ahead, Chad.
All right.
You got to share your screen, Chad.
Yeah, can you pass that over to me here? Let's see.
Yeah, I did.
There we go.
Okay, perfect.
Smooth sailing. All right, yeah, thanks, Shannon. And hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining us today. Based on those poll results, about half of you know that, like Shannon said, it's getting kind of scary out there. Untangle is actually a really interesting solution for ransomware at the gateway. Some of these things will depend on your setup, obviously, but let's walk through real quick a few steps that we actually kind of went through the slideshow there, and I'll show you where in Untangle we would go to enable some of those options. My first step, honestly, as an Untangle user is to customize my dashboard a bit. You can see I've got some virus blocker reports added as widgets here on my dashboard. So I'm seeing any infected web events and spam. So luckily I'm having no infected web events currently from virus blocker. But this is all fully customizable within Untangle up here under the Manage Widgets option. So that being said, anything you're reporting on, obviously in Untangle, can be thrown on your dashboard. So if there's a specific protocol, a specific type of traffic you want to watch on your virus report, that kind of thing, if you just want to see, FTP reports, we can throw that as a widget on your dashboard. Not a problem. So let's jump real quick here into some of the apps that Shannon talked about. And you can see here, I've basically got my anti-ransomware apps installed. Like Shannon mentioned, this is a very modular solution. It's sort of an app store look now. You notice I don't have my ad blocker installed, so let's go get that installed real quick. That's just going to take a second, and that's done. So now ad blocker is installed as well. I'd like to start real quick with spam and phish blocker. Those are pretty hot topics and sort of the tip of the spear for things like ransomware. Our spam and phish blocker will work on port 25. We're going to be able to scan all your SMTP. And you can see I've got a little bit of information coming in here. A couple of messages have passed through. And if we come in here, this is where phish blocker will actually either pass or drop the message, or it will send it to quarantine. With our spam blocker, users get a quarantine digest, that kind of things, where they can release or purge. That's really the only interaction end users have with our spam, though, or phishing. Like I said, these are working on SMTP, so with a local mail server, we can scan all that stuff at the gateway, which is a huge benefit. If we go back over to the apps real quick, let's take a look at spam blocker. This is our full version of spam blocker running the spam assassin engine, and you can see it's already seen a few requests here. And what we're doing over here is setting thresholds and setting options for things like super spam. The threshold we want to call super spam. So default is currently at 20. Maybe we want to increase that. Maybe we want to reduce it. Under the advanced configuration, there's some other things available here. If you want to add headers to your emails, we can also scan outbound SMTP, which is handy. If you want to scan your outbound mail, we can do that as well. The message size limit is here as well if you want to limit attachments coming through. Spam blocker will be able to scan attachments up to that size limit. And then again, the strength, the actions up here are for basic spam levels. We have this set to a pretty high threshold. We're trying to catch a lot of spam here. You can customize this as well, though, if you want to, obviously. And then we set the action here to quarantine, mark, pass, or drop. And this is where it will show up in a user's quarantine digest email that they get if we're quarantining here. So like I said, everything SMTP coming in, we'll scan at the gateway for spam and phish. And then we present users with a quarantine digest to purge or release things. Let's talk real quick about web filtering. As Shannon mentioned, online ads can be troublesome. A lot of times they can present things like she mentioned, malvertising. They can try to force plugins with embedded malware, that kind of thing. Our web filter app is actually a pretty interesting solution too. So under our categories list here, we can scroll down and you'll see that, in the M's, we have malware blocked. I'm going to zoom in on my screen a little bit because I can't see that. That means some of you probably can't either. So you can see by default, we have malware calling home blocked and flagged. So that's blocking the sites in that category as well as reporting on that traffic. You can see through the definitions right there. One of the things you may not think about, though, within web filter, actual URL blocking, is this category called online ads. This does a really good job at the gateway of catching online ads. We would also want to enable ad blocker that I just installed out there. But with web filter catching the URL as well, it presents a very interesting complete ad blocking solution at the gateway. So if we want to take a look at the second aspect of that, the ad blocker, I can come in here and turn it on, and there are a few options in here. We want to block ads and possibly tracking and cookies. Those things are somewhat important, obviously. And then with ad filters, we can add some standard filters here. There's a lot built in, but you can also define your own custom filters. And then the same thing with cookie filters. These are the standard cookie filters, and they're by default, but you can also add custom filters. And then if there's any sites, any IP addresses you don't want scanned, we can always add those here. Just a quick rule, and then we'll throw that site in a pass list. So ad blocker and web filter will work really well in conjunction with one another to block ads at the gateway. They're very interesting together when they run like that concurrently. Speaking of, you'll see both our virus blockers installed here. I'm going to always recommend this with our complete package because these are two of the apps that actually run concurrently with the light version and the full version. Virus Blocker Lite, however, as well as Web Monitor are not enough. They're open source apps and they're community maintained. So those two by themselves are not enough for a ransomware solution at the gateway. But with Virus Blocker installed, you have a large enterprise level database installed locally, and we do scan HTTP, SMTP, and FTP by default. So web, email, FTP by default, and a few options for viruses that are found through email. Pass sites, obviously, if we don't want to scan these, we can enter URL here and pass those. And under the Advanced tab, this is where the real fun stuff lives. So we also enable 2 cloud scans now. Our Scout IQ cloud scan, which you can see on untangle.com under cloud. So this is our threat intelligence map. This is why Untangle had no infections with WannaCry a few weeks ago, because the first Untangle that saw that instantly uploaded those definitions and behaviors and modus operandi into our Scout IQ threat aggregation database. Once that was analyzed on our database, it was disseminated to all the other Untangles that connect to our cloud. So even though that wasn't exactly a 0-day infection, it was a few months old, it was treated that way for a lot of us, and Untangle responded really well at the gateway with our cloud solution. So with those enabled, we present a very interesting solution with basically 2 local databases and 2 cloud databases. And the other part that we always recommend is file extension and MIME type scanning at the gateway. These are very important for ransomwares for things like Shannon mentioned, Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, which often contain infected macros, that kind of thing. This will prevent the infected file from even coming to me. I work in accounting and I open every spreadsheet I see. This takes the end user out of the equation because we'll scan that at the gateway and then take steps to, pass it or purge it or quarantine it, whatever we need to do. Once again, this is a very interesting solution at the gateway with everything working together with our complete package because there are different apps that leverage each other. In conclusion, I do like our solution with the complete package installed because we do have so many different apps like that that do so many specific functions and call out to those cloud searches. Scout IQ, our cloud database, is also included in the complete package at no additional cost. It's just integrated by default. All you have to do is make sure the box is checked, and it should be checked by default. That's basically the walkthrough on how to take these steps within your Untangle. With your complete package installed, we're a very, very good solution. It's a solid gateway stopping point for most ransomware that we've seen. With that, I'm going to pass it back to the studio and Shannon.
All right, thanks, Chad. Thanks so much. So I just want to show some resources that we have that Chad kind of mentioned. We have this ransomware page. If you go to our solution or go to untangle.com and under solutions, we have some solutions by issue. So ransomware, we have a couple security briefs and just information that kind of reiterates what we talked about today in terms of what you can do. Chad mentioned our cloud intelligence, which is our Scout IQ. So you can click that and just see this cool map that shows where all the infections are trying to get in. If you want to get information about NG Firewall, just click NG Firewall. That gives you kind of the overview of everything. And you can download the data sheet or just, get some information, as Chad mentioned, the complete package. Let's see, there's a demo. We didn't mention this, but we do have a live demo server that you can go and just play around. If you're not familiar with Untangle and just kind of want to play with the dashboard and the apps, you can go in and, you can't really do much, but you can install stuff and play with the settings and just see what's available. So that's kind of good if you're, just kind of out there looking at a solution. All right, so let's see if we have any questions. Let me see with our team on the back end. Let's see, there were, a couple questions about Web Filter Lite. So in version 13, we created Web Monitor, which is a much better application than Web Filter Lite. Web Filter Lite was outdated. It was community driven and didn't have an updated list of categories. So Web Monitor helps, is a better solution for that. Again, Web Monitor can only show everything that's on your network, whereas Web Filter, you can block and flag those sites. let's see. Let's see.
Looks like there's a lot of questions coming in, but they're really specific to environments in the wild. So if you do have questions regarding your configuration or your setup, we would recommend that you send an email to support or reach out so that one of our techs can take a look at your box and your settings and configurations and make sure that you are protected according to what we recommend from the Untangle side.
Great, thanks, Katie. I see a question. Katie is our sales director, and there is a question on our light versus regular apps. Katie, if you want to just quickly describe that.
Sure. So the main difference that you're going to see with any of our light features versus the premium features is really the signature databases that we phone home to, as well as the consistency that they're upgraded or updated. While you are still protected on those light versions, if you are running this in a business and you are selling it as an up-to-date service, you really want to be careful and make sure that you are providing the service that you're selling. So in terms of our premium apps, we back that, you know, at the company level. We update it. We have, you know, multiple updates many times a day. And then if you're running the light versions, it's community-based, it's community-supported. So while they will be updated at some point, we can't guarantee that it's going to protect, you know, real time. That's the main difference between a lot of our light versions, whether you're looking at the spam blocker, virus blocker, even application control. So keep that in mind as you're offering products. If you're utilizing the products, you know, that's the main difference. And while it does work for most, you know, in a business setting where you've got confidential information, you have productivity levels that need to be met, that is really something you have to keep in mind when looking at comparing the two products.
Great, thanks, Katie. So I just wanted to wrap up really quick. I can get to the next slide. There we go. So as I mentioned, there are a couple resources. If you do have any questions or are interested in getting a demo of Untangle, you can contact us at sales@untangle.com. Oh, Katie, do you have another question? Sorry.
Yeah, we actually have a good question here. Chad is actually running version 13 on this demo today. A lot of you are asking questions about version 13. It's a rolling release. It has been pushed out to about a quarter of our install base. We are making sure, given that it is a new interface and a lot of things have changed in terms of where you'll find different tags and filters, we are making sure that our client installs are protected and that everybody's having time to learn it. So you will see an upgrade on your box in the next couple of weeks. We are rolling it out. If you are excited and you want to get moved over immediately, please email support@untangle.com and provide your UID, and we can do a manual push to your box. But if you don't see it today, you will see it in the near future. You can check the default settings for have auto updates on, or you'll get alerted when that update is available to you. So keep that in mind too. But we are demoing version 13 today, so if it looks a little different than your interface, that's why.
Great, and I do see some other questions about if this is recorded. Yes, this webinar is recorded. It'll be posted on the Untangle YouTube channel within 24 hours, and we will also send a link. If you have specific questions in terms of how we compare to other vendors, please contact us at sales@untangle.com so we can provide you a more detailed differentiator rather than trying to answer that on a webinar. We'd be glad to give you a demo and showcase that. Are great features for you. So as I mentioned, we have some resources on the website. As always, we're here to chat with you or give you a demo. I mentioned the demo server on our website if you're new to Untangle and want to just play around with it. We have a couple webinars coming up next month. We have another webinar series called Tech Talks that are very highly technical webinars that take a deep dive into specific apps, as well as overall. The next one is on advanced networking, so how you can take your network configuration to the next level. And for those of you who are new to Untangle, we have a 101 introducing Untangle, so that might be a great webinar for you. Katie, our sales director, goes over, you know, all the different apps in terms of what would be best for your network, whether you're a school, a business, or whatnot. So check out those webinars and see which one is interested for you. Thank you, Chad, for the great demonstration, and thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful day.